Hello, and welcome to Beyond the Deal, where we discuss business, entrepreneurship, and commercial real estate. My name is Lacey Labs, and I'm here with my co-host, Laura Martin. In today's episode, we interview Ray Chung, an entrepreneur and consultant with Rising Sun Consultants, LLC. Ray's career has centered around organizational culture and employee experience and engagement. His current role focuses more prominently on the promoting and development of servant leaders and healthy cultures through honesty, integrity, and care of people. Tune into this episode to hear more about Ray's journey, the organizational culture and leadership experience that he shares, and what advice he would give to organizations and leaders looking to develop a culture in which people thrive. Ray Chung, welcome to Beyond the Deal. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you. Excited to be here. Thanks, Lacey. Hi, Laura.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let's go ahead and just jump right in. You can tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of what your backstory, how you got started and what you're doing.
Yeah, so growing up as a kid, I think I've made my mom cry more than once because I wasn't the particularly best student or the most well-behaved child. And so it would always come up like, what do you want to do when you grow up? My older brother had a clear picture that he wanted to be a doctor. And lo and behold, he is a practicing heart surgeon, and we are proud of him. I, on the other hand, had this deep curiosity ever since a child. What makes high-performing organizations? What makes high performers, successful people work? And what makes meaningful social impact? So whether it's the restaurant down the street, like why is one restaurant long lines? And why is it that there's one auntie, a grandma that makes the most amazing wonton noodle soup? And why is it that there are some organizations that are just deeply involved and caring to the community? So I think I was always keenly interested and curious about the intersection of high-performing organizations, high performers, individuals, teams, and sustainable social impact. So I think that's kind of the space that I've continued to study, both in schools and just a bit of my kind of career path. Went to school at Messiah University, and then spent a number of years with TE Connectivity. Then went into international development at Hope International. And then thereafter spent a number of years at Link Bank. And then currently am with a firm called Rising Sun, walking with servant leaders, supporting purpose-driven organizations.
And where did you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in Malaysia. So spent all my childhood there and then applied to the amazing school here in South Central PA, Messiah University.
And have stayed ever since.
Yeah, I was telling Kara and Cody here behind the cameras here earlier that during my time at Messiah, I got introduced to a Jersey girl who's now my wife. Her name's Heather, and we have 3 little ones, Delia, Eden, and Micah. So yeah, we live in Dillsburg, and this is home. So.
And your in-laws live here now too?
My in-laws do live here. Yeah, they probably 7-8 years ago now relocated from Jersey to here. My wife Heather has got an older brother, lives in this area as well. So yeah.
And we met through Messiah.
Yep.
We were on a board together, and at the time you were at Link Bank.
Yeah.
So you've had an interesting career.
Thank you. Yeah. No, that's actually one of the things that I was really appreciative to be asked to be on this podcast, because I have seen your involvement professionally. I've seen your involvement in nonprofits, board work, as well as our mutual friend connection. And one of the things that just even in from an arm's length away, looking into what you are doing, just a huge thank you. The way that you live your life. I sometimes say, servant leaders, their off-stage presence matches their on-stage presence. And just the way that you care for our mutual friend, it's awesome. The way that you extend care, as well as come to have learned that there are several members on your team are friends as well, and they just rave about their opportunity and their time and their experience and being challenged and just being able to support the work that you do, which is amazing. So thanks for what you do.
Thank you. That means a lot to me.
Yeah.
And I was thinking too how we reconnected last summer. We ran into each other up at Camp of the Woods in the Adirondacks.
Camp of the Woods.
And this summer too.
Yeah.
The same schedule.
Yeah.
So a lot of paths cross in various ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you.
Thanks,
Ray. So how did you get started working in leadership consulting? Your background is kind of HR and company culture and employee engagement.
Yeah.
How did that transition?
So-
what does that look like?
So I think back to kind of that sense of curiosity. I think I was just deeply interested in uncovering what are the connective tissues between those three things, right? Like what makes high performing organizations sustainable across long period of time? What makes amazing leaders, employees, right? People who are doing well, as well as folks who are involved in whether it's social work, development work. And I think one of the things that I've learned and seen or understood to be is that whether we call it employee engagement, client engagement, or community engagement, when you break those down, that sense of serving people, the sense of listening to people, right? Listening to clients' needs, listening to employees' needs, and listening to community needs, those aren't inherently separate buckets. It's coming from a place of serving people well. So I think that's kind of how I continue to fall in love more and more with this work, because I see true impact, whether it's high performing impact for organizations or raving employee cultures. There are the gimmicky things, right? Like the ping pong tables and the Nerf guns, which is awesome and wonderful.
We don't have those.
To a certain extent, right? Like
We have an espresso machine.
But long lasting when you have families of employees that are raving for the organization, it's when they see these connective tissues of caring for people well that transcends across these areas. So I think I try to walk with leaders to really unpack what that looks like in their journey. One of the things that I tell clients a lot is your leadership posture and the culture of the organization, it's the one and the same thing, right? So most people would say like, absolutely, we want a thriving employee culture. The truth and the reality is that is two sides of the same coin on your leadership posture. So what does it look like to truly know the names of the interns? So I love that one of my clients, each summer they have about maybe 20 to 30 interns working for them. About 2 weeks before, there's a intern manual directory that is circulated across the organizations, and everyone is expected to learn the names of interns, their interest, all the way up through to the CEO and the president. And so that's just a beautiful way of just taking interest and not just using interns, but truly investing in interns. So, yeah.
That's lovely. Yeah.
I think we've all gotten better at that, because it used to be a culture of, it's hard to leave work for this or that. And, I worked at a place, I didn't have kids then, but you'd never dream of bringing your kids to work. And I think people have gotten better about, if you need balance, and work is not everything. And what they say at the end of the day, don't let the door hit you. Like when you're gone, you're gone. Like it's, times have changed, and in a good way. I think that you have to look at the whole person. And our office isn't that big, but everyone has, something happening with a family member or themselves. And I think, you have to be more I'm not sure what the word is, but compassionate, like, and understand that real life happens and it's, not just your business that, you might be more hyper-focused on. But.
Sure. Yeah.
So you're doing some things at Messiah right now, right? Are you teaching?
We are. Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. We are doing a 6-session course called Certificate in Influential Leadership. And it was really born out of saying what we just said, right? Like, it's not an either or proposition, that let's not try to say like, hey, let's have great business and trample over people, or have great cultures and run a sloppy company. So how do we make sure that we go both together? And we focus on topics like navigating hard conversations, and how to equip, help leaders think through and work through accountability. And accountability, first and foremost, start from yourself. And so one of the things that we do a lot is self-awareness, which is I continue to be reminded on that on a regular basis. That I think the stats that I recently saw was about 90% of leaders say that we are self-aware, but in actuality, it's only 10 to 15%.
Yeah, as the staff, right?
and that was. That study came out of like someone who did research in that psychological behavior world, and but yeah, overwhelmingly there is a dissonance between what we think of ourselves as leaders and what our team thinks of us, and why is there such a gap? And so yeah, excited for that. This is the second cohort that we'll be running through. It starts in September.
Okay, so people could still get involved.
Yeah, super excited about that, and grateful for the response and the feedback that we've received, both from participants and from team at Messiah.
So it could be staff or faculty, or it could be people in the workforce.
Correct. So yeah, it's primarily geared towards workforce professionals. Messiah has been really gracious in sending a number of folks through the program themselves. So yeah.
But primarily for Rising Sun, are you like working one-on-one with businesses? Like what's?
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. Last week, an individual, I'll just say Sandy, not her real name, reached out and says, "Hey, Ray, I heard about the work that you do." And then she kind of lowered her voice and says, "Just to confide in you, I'm experiencing anxiety." And Sandy is a person who had been working with a pretty large nonprofit for a number of years and was let go pretty suddenly. She gave her all, and she's still unclear why she was let go. And so just to answer your question, I work with folks like Sandy in a one-on-one coaching capacity.
Okay.
I also work with what would be, for example, the organization that she would have been with in a kind of consulting manner. And then like Messiah type programs, we do training. So coaching, consulting, and training. One specific areas that we've been engaged in quite a bit is working with family-owned businesses as they work through transitions. When family leadership transitions, how do you pass down not just ownership and wealth, but you pass down the culture and character and values of the organization and preparing for the next generation leadership. So that's really exciting because I love Central PA, and we do have a lot of amazing locally owned family businesses here that hires local talent like yours and supports local organizations. And so that's something that we are excited to be able to serve with those organizations as well.
There's a big need for that. I'm amazed how many high net worth clients haven't really thought about succession planning and things that really do matter. Yeah. So do you have an HR background too?
Functionally, I do. So I did not study HR. I took one HR course at Messiah, and then I kind of just fell into the space of HR, working in areas of compensation, training, development, and So, but
Resolving conflict.
Yeah.
Well, you're a people person, so I think that helps in a lot of, it's good. I mean, people could stand to be a little more relational, I think.
Thank you.
Overall.
Thank you. Yeah, I've come to embrace that over the years. For a while, my wife used to joke that, how is it that you grew up in Malaysia and you know so many people in this area, and so she would sometimes get embarrassed because we will be at local coffee shop, and it's like, can we just have our meal at peace? So,
sit with your back to the restaurant.
Yeah.
That's funny. But it is, for as large as areas, it is pretty small.
Yeah.
There's sometimes I'll go to a place and I'm like, I can't believe I haven't seen someone I know. Like that's unusual too.
What about you? I'm curious, like, based on some of the stuff that we've talked about, what inspires you and how do you think through success and impact for your organization?
That's a loaded question. I try to pay it forward. Like even other people that are in my industry that are trying to get a start, even in other towns or other companies, I try to help them if I can. I mean, I just believe that we should help each other in life. And I know when I started, I had left working for a family privately and then started this business, and I could have used someone. But the town's too small. You'd call someone for advice and they knew exactly what deal you were talking about, even though you never mentioned it. So that's where the SVN connection's been really great for me. Just having a resource. Like next week, I'm going to Chicago for owners meetings, which we haven't done since pre-COVID, but it'd be great to just be collaborative and be able to ask questions and get help. I try to do the right thing always. I mean, I'm certainly not perfect, but it's really important to me that I always say I'm not going to be the richest because I really do try to do the right thing. And sometimes the right thing is telling someone not to buy that building or, I always try to say, I say my piece once, but then I move on. If somebody wants to do something or it's their money, whatever. So we try to have no drama in our office. I think we're pretty good at that. And we try to support each other. I think we have a good team, and they're good at having fun. I mean, they're right now they're doing a push-up challenge in there, 100 push-ups a day. Yeah. And it's funny when you walk in on some of them doing them on the hallway. But I just I try to think outside the box, and I try to think of what's the right thing to do. And a lot of it is my faith. I'm always, asking the Lord honestly to lead and guide and direct me and to use me. And it's a career I love. No 2 days are the same, so I do appreciate that about it. Because I don't think I could sit behind a desk all day. But it's not an easy business. It's my daughter's looking at getting into it in Florida,
right?
And she's learning. It's hard. It's hard. It's tough. We've been watching one of those TV shows on real estate in one big city, and the stuff's crazy. It's certainly not like that, but you just try to do the right thing and be honest and forthright, and so that's kind of my goal, is just every day to be kind to people and help people if I can, and so I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, as an employee of your company, I think some of the traits that I think everybody in the office would agree on is you care very much about the people that work for you. And you show that in practical ways, not just fun things in the office, but in the personal connection time that you put into people, knowing what's going on in their lives and making space for the things that are hard in their lives, supporting them through it. You genuinely care. And I think everyone in our office would say that nobody's guaranteed a leader or a boss of an organization that genuinely cares about their people. And
I try. I can't offer a lot, but
you do. You do. And it comes through.
We try to have a good time. We've been doing parties, get-togethers, and just team building, bonding, and it's important. But it is funny how life gets in the way. And summers in particular, like this week somebody's out, next week somebody's out. It's hard to get everybody together.
Yeah. I mean, as we talk about even servant leadership or caring for people, there are those important moments that care for people going through tough situations. But one of the things that I've also seen you done really well is part of serving people well is also being able to ask hard questions. And so I've seen you done that well, even in the boards that we were involved in, and not in a mean way, but just even being able to raise up questions in a way of serving the mission well. And so I think that, again, back to what I talked about, the three intersections, right? Like whether it's the mission side of it, organization, whether it's people, or whether it's social impact, being able to have a sense of humility, curiosity, but also a sense of accountability in just asking honest questions about how do we continue to serve people well. So yeah, I've seen you model that really well, Laura.
You guys just want to cry today.
Yeah. So, Ray, you talked about servant leadership several times already in this podcast, and I know it's just inherent in what you do. But would you mind, for our audience, just explaining a little bit about what that is to you, what it looks like, what it means?
Yeah, thank you. We get that a lot. And where I like to start is usually just Robert Greenleaf is the person that is attributed coining the term servant leadership in 1970. So that wasn't that long ago. But as we know, the concept of servant leadership obviously extends way before that. So it's a common enough vernacular, which is an awesome thing because we get to go into various organizations to share about servant leadership. The challenge on the flip side is like, it means 50 things to 15 different people. So what I try to hone it down to is at least 5 areas. One is to serve, a desire to serve more than to be served, right? So when I get to know, back to the example earlier, when I learn someone's name as the leader to the intern, am I doing that as a posture of serving them, or do I do that so that I can be served, right? So to serve versus being served. 2, a sense of sacrifice over comfort. So a true servant leader desires to be more sacrificial than to pursue comfort. Doesn't mean that you can't have a latte or a cappuccino, right? There are things that are comfortable. That's okay. That's welcome. But a sense of like you have to be willing to sacrifice. 3, actions louder than words, right? Like so your walk matches your talk, or maybe more importantly, your walk extends far beyond even your talk. 4, a sense of open-handedness versus tight-fistedness, whether it's financial resources, talents, network connections. What does it look like to share things generously and open-handedly? So those are maybe a couple things that I think about as attributes that makes for a servant leader. I am grateful to have been in community with a number of really spectacular folks. We talked about several before we started recording, and just maybe that's one of the things that I think about. It's a sense of calling that my grandma and my mom, just the way that they've modeled their lives, continues to motivate me each and every day in being true to these values and convictions as we walk with leaders and organizations.
And your family's still in Malaysia, right? Were you telling me you're going over?
Yeah. So my parents, my grandma, my extended families, they are in Malaysia. When we've decided to settle in the US, made a kind of promise to my mom that we'll visit every several years. COVID kind of put a wrinkle on some things, but we did go last November. So it was wonderful to spend time with families there. In fact, right now, there are plans in the works to bring my mom here shortly. So we are looking forward to that.
So I feel like Zoom and FaceTime has really helped more recently in long distance relationships.
Yeah, one of the things that maybe comes as a surprise to some folks is that even now at age 43, I talk to my mom every week. So Sunday, 8:00 a.m. is our sacred mom and son time.
I love that.
Well, that has actually transcended to some of my kids as well. So it's mom, son, and grandkids. But yeah, so every Sunday, for the most part, that is our connection point as part of, again, being intentional in maintaining relationship, because we do live a little bit further than from each other.
Yeah.
So,
Where's your brother live?
yeah, my brother is in Cleveland.
Okay.
So he
Is he
is
at Mayo?
Cleveland Clinic.
Cleveland, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So his name is Roy. My sister's name's Rachel. So it's Roy, Ray, and Rachel.
Where's Rachel?
Rachel is in KL, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Yep.
Okay.
Back in Malaysia. Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's wild.
yeah. I'm curious to hear a little bit, like, we are in August now. What's the rest of the year look like for you?
It's busy. Well, I'm in a women's group, and this is our second time. We're going to Italy so soon, so that'll be fun. Yeah. And I have a daughter graduating college early in December.
Yeah. What keeps you centered? Like, I'd be curious to hear from both of you. Like, what keeps you centered in doing what you do, in bringing out your best every day, despite some challenging elements that you've...
I would say absolutely my faith.
Yeah.
I think that's what gives me a lot of peace and most of the time calmness.
Yeah.
It's absolutely my faith. Yeah. When you think you can't grow anymore, it's amazing the challenge thrown at you, how you can find more and deeper faith.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hands down.
Lacey?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, 100% my faith. Those daily rhythms, weekly rhythms of balancing life, rest and work and connection with people important and time with the Lord. So absolutely.
And she's busy.
Yeah.
She is very busy. Lots of weddings and renovations. And
I think though that, I grew up in a Christian home. I grew up with faith being a huge part of our family life, and saw that modeled a certain way, which was great. It gave me a great foundation. I think I have had to learn to give myself grace for, imperfections and ways. I think I've felt like, oh, I have to perform this, or I have to do this, I have to do that. And it's led to a lot of just feeling anxiety and stress over the fact that I can't do it all. And so I think that centering really comes back to, like, I don't have to do it all. It's not on me. How do I find the right balance of serving others and giving to my workplace well and giving to my family well, and also not at the end of the day be totally spent and exhausted and unable to give meaningfully where I need to and where I'm called to, because I've said yes to too many things, or gotten myself where I'm just at burnout level. So for me, the rhythms of my week and my day are critical. I have to follow those well. And when I don't, I quickly get into, like, oh no, I'm sliding. I'm not doing okay. But I'm curious, Ray, like, how does leaders are called to do so much and to sacrifice and to give? I mean, how do you deal with leaders when they come to you and say, I'm burnt out, like, I want to sacrificially give, I want to give everything, but I'm like at a point where I just can't anymore. And how do you help them kind of navigate that kind of situation?
I don't know, Laura. Lacey, I wish I have the magic pill for that one, right? Like, I just read a stat recently that 1 out of 5 individuals experience some level of anxiety. Like 1 out of 5. So the short answer is, I don't know. I'm figuring it out myself, but I'm also one who talk about it, shares about it, because I wouldn't want to happen for the next person. I remember going through a pretty dilapidating episode a number of years ago when just a sense of overwhelming sense of anxiety. Every morning, what rest I got was 2-3 hours at most, and waking up to a sense of nervousness with racing heart rate and an overwhelming sense of I'm not good enough. That it was hard to even physically get out of bed. And most people would have known me, before or even now would say like, no way, Ray, you are such a cheerful, happy, chilled out person. And yes, I was. And if you were to ask me before then, I would say, yo, snap out of it, right? Like it's in your head, snap out of it, move on, be tougher, and let's get going. And for the life of me, at that moment, I could not snap out of it. I could not. I was waking up, even dredging through the day with a perpetual sense of failure, a perpetual sense of like, I can't do this, and it was hard. Like I said, I don't have a secret one magic pill formula, but I think in just acknowledging it is the first thing. So I chatted and just opened up with a couple of close friends. Being in community with people who truly care about you, who you can laugh with and cry with, and just being able to be open and vulnerable with that. So I'm grateful for friends who didn't try to fix me or give me their magic solution blue pill, but simply just walk with me during that time. So that was encouraging. There were a couple of bad habits I was doing at that time that one of my friends just kind of point blank asked me like, Ray, how many cups of coffee are you drinking? And so that did not help. I was drinking more than my needed dose of caffeine, which, so I started trading caffeine for water. Just begin to take more steps. And one other thing is just technology, right? Like the mindless scrolling of, do I have more emails? And part of that for me, as I've taken time to practice solitude and discernment, is I am wired such that I want to please people. I feel a sense of importance when I can provide help and support. So as a result of a couple of work-related incidents that I was able to help, I was on that adrenaline chase of the next moment that I can render help. And so just being mindful of my identity is not rooted in fixing, solving, and helping. That my identity, as you both had indicated, from a faith standpoint, it's on something much bigger. And so being able to rest on that, again, doesn't mean that you don't help, doesn't mean that you don't support, but being able to take comfort in my identity is on something else and establish boundaries for that. So not completely kind of fixed it all amazing all day every day, but still on a journey. But those are a few things that I would continually want to just encourage folks back to even what we said about Sandy, the individual earlier who came. It's just inviting people in and establishing healthy habits, but also being able to take a step back enough to maybe self-assess, like what actually motivates you? Like, why are you wired to, drive? What's your self-driven? What's driving yourself and your motivations? So
yeah, and we are all wired very differently. But I think that's kind of the joy of life. We were having that conversation one day. We were talking about, I think it was a mug. And I was like, wow, that's a lot of money. But it was something that brought you joy. So when I go look at pottery shops, I always think of you when I look at the pieces, whereas I'll buy a nice purse or something stupid. But it is funny. But I think you shift over time too. Like it's phases and seasons and peaks and valleys.
Have you seen that across time? Like in terms of how anxiety manifests itself or dealt with specifically in real estate?
Well, it's funny because I was talking with friends last night who had a family member just had a big anxiety attack out of the ordinary. And that's not something I've personally experienced, but I do have friends and family that have. But I definitely go back to evaluating sometimes like, what's my purpose here and what's my role? And, what I always say I try to work smarter, not harder, and just trying to figure things out. And, but it's real. And I do feel like society's kind of crazy right now. And I think that's added to a lot of depression, mental illness, anxiety. I have seen that.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. You have to let people kind of process it. And I always tell my kids, that I try to do the best I can with what I've got, and I try to encourage people. And, but yeah, sometimes it's not just, you don't always know what to do or what the best thing is to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. In my experience working with some high-performing organizations, the role of a manager, I jokingly sometimes say, like, when you have a strong and high-performing team, you don't need to, like, push them harder. Mm-hmm. Your job is to help them regulate and help them rest. Like, so we even said, like, your job is to help them shut down their laptop on weekends. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes we talk about, practicing the Sabbath because it's in those break moments that you actually have a long sustaining ability to performing at a high level versus an ongoing nonstop frenzy chase after the next deal. So yeah,
the science around that is so fascinating. If you get into the way, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie The Social Dilemma. It basically is a film documenting conversations with some of the creators of Google, Instagram, Facebook, kind of social media and kind of just modern technology like leaders on their thoughts on what they've created. And it's really insightful. They share some things that can feel a little overwhelming when they're like, oh yeah, my kids won't use social media until they're 18
they
because
won't let them.
we know its capacities. Yeah. But it's wild what happens to our brains, the dopamine hit that we get by interacting on a blue screen and seeing someone like our post or comment on it. And then our attention is being literally sold. I mean, people are spending thousands of dollars for our attention. So every minute we give to a screen, somebody is paying a lot of money for that attention. It's this very valuable asset. And I think as a culture, we don't treat it like our attention is valuable and our time is valuable. We think maybe culturally more about our finances than our money. And we don't think about like our time on earth is limited. And so every minute we give to something, we're giving value to that person or that screen or that interaction or that task or whatever it is that we're doing. Mm-hmm. And that's been really insightful for me to think, like break down my day and say, how do I spend my time? And man, in marketing, it's hard to get away from social media. I spend a lot of time on it.
Yeah, I want you on
understanding. I know, right? Like this is part of my job. How do I balance understanding this tool and using it well, and also like making sure I'm really stepping back from it too at times because I need to separate myself from it because it is created to suck me in and to keep me on as long as possible. Yeah. And I'm the only one who can make a decision to break that. I will just keep going if I don't. And so learning how these tools work and what happens to our brains when we're using them has helped me a lot with like, I need Sundays. I try my best to always have my phone just somewhere and my watch off, and I'm just not plugged in. People cannot text me. They cannot call me. I'm not going to answer. And if you text me on a Sunday, you're probably not getting a response till Sunday evening or Monday because I'm just not going to have my phone with me. Yeah. And that's just something that's been a really helpful boundary to have because one day a week, I'm just completely separating myself from it.
And as the business owner, I really, really try not to bother anybody off hours because unless it's a true emergency, because I just don't think that's right. I mean, I'm on 24/7, but I own the business like that. So it's always been, I'm okay with that. But unless it's like a true emergency, I really try to let people, decompress and do whatever they want to do. So.
Have you always practiced that? Like was that a
think so.
shift over time?
No, I think so. I really, really try to be very cognizant of people's off time and their family time. And I feel like I have somebody in the office that's transitioning to less time. Her husband's retired, and I really try not to bother her if I can humanly possibly not, because I just think it's not fair. She's not on, right? And
Yeah, I mean, I think that's rooted in serving people, right? But part of that, it's also being mindful and deliberate on what are the true outcomes and value that each role is adding to the overall objective of the organization.
Yeah.
So having clarity on that helps prioritization and communications.
Yeah, I feel like it's a respect issue, in my opinion. I guess is the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
But it's I think I've always been that way. I just feel like if you're there, you're there, and if you're not, it's not like I'm paying them tons and tons of money. So
Yeah.
just in fairness.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. I'm curious. I was looking for graduation gifts for kids, and I was like, I want to send like business books and life books. And do you have any books that you feel like have been really impactful in your life that have really touched you that are worth sharing?
Goodness. I think the first one that comes to mind is just one that I just posted recently. It's a book called Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. Yeah, in fact, I was talking to Cody and Tara earlier today. So I came to learn about it from the recent Global Leadership Summit. He was one of the speakers, and he took a mediocre restaurant, 11 Madison Avenue, I think it's called, from a mediocre restaurant to a one of the top world ranked restaurants
in New York City.
In New York City, and it was a 11-year journey, and his secret recipe is the title, Unreasonable Hospitality. Give people more than they expect.
I love that.
So one of the things that he emphasized in that book, it's what they call in restaurants, and I didn't know that before that, it's called the pre-meal meeting. So before restaurants, serving at maybe 6 o'clock, they have between 4:30 to 5, whatever, a pre-meal meeting with all the front side of the house, the servers and all, and the back side of the house, the kitchen staff, the cooks, the sous chefs, and all that. So the pre-meal meeting, and he says the pre-meal meeting is one of the single most important time to fill the tank of all the staff to deliver unreasonable hospitality. So he's got things like really paying attention to what are the patrons saying, experiencing, not just in words, but in body language of their experience. And he talked about how even at the finest restaurants, after a year or so, people don't really remember what the meal was. But what they do remember is the delightful, memorable, lasting moments of unreasonable hospitality. And so that sense of hospitality extends beyond just the patrons, right? Like it's also staff care. And so I thought that's one it's a recent one. So,
great.
Throwing that one out there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Ray, thanks so much for being honest with us today. We have one closing question that we ask everyone who's on. And so if you'll allow us to, I'd love to ask you one more. So if you could go back and start your career all over, but keep all the knowledge and experiences that you've had in it, what is something that you would do differently?
Yeah, I thought about that question a little bit when you sent it over. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. For me, I think it's continual with a sense of curiosity, but also not being afraid to fail or try new things. Earlier on, I think I was maybe fixated or maybe a bit more consumed, if I'm just being honest, to accomplish. Whatever accomplish means, right? Like I wanted to get on to the next project or the next title or the next promotion or the next whatever. And I think that sense of impatience perhaps shortchange some elements of just being in the moment and soaking up the learnings, even if it's a tough project that may even eventually fail. Like, I would probably want to advise my younger self to say, be present and devote yourself fully, even if those projects or experiences may not lead you up the ladder per se. And so that's probably it. Just have a sense of curiosity and a willingness to try things, even if it's not necessarily advancing on surface anyway, your career up and to the right. So.
I think you should write a book. All these tidbits of wisdom.
Yeah.
We'll do it together.
I can't be she's PR editor.
There you go. Perfect.
I'm good at ideas. I'm not going to follow through.
Well, very kind of you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Ray. We really appreciate you sharing your insights and your vulnerability with your life and your journey and your story and what you do. So thank you so much for being on.
Thanks, Lacey.
Thank
you,
you.
Laura.
Thank
Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Thank you.
That was Ray Chung sharing his insights on organizational leadership and culture. For more information on Ray, Rising Sun Consultants LLC, or to learn more about SVN Latus, click the links in the show notes. Thanks for listening to Beyond the Deal.